Listen, real leaders don't wait for permission. They don't wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect conditions. They move. They create momentum when no one else believes it's possible. Because leaders know something the average person forgets: motion creates emotion. Leaders understand that waiting is the enemy of progress. They know that clarity doesn't come from sitting still. It comes from acting, from stepping into the unknown and figuring it out while moving forward. You can't steer a parked car, right? You've got to be in motion before you can change direction. Leaders know that their power doesn't come from titles, money, or authority. It comes from certainty, that unshakable belief inside that says, I will find a way. Even when fear is screaming in their ears, even when everything looks impossible, they decide to lead anyway. Because leadership isn't about having no fear, it's about having something more powerful than fear: purpose. True leaders don't complain about the world, they shape it. They don't talk about what's missing, they focus on what's possible. When everyone else is frozen in doubt, leaders rise. They ask better questions. What can I do right now? Who can I become to change this? Leaders know that energy is everything. You can't inspire others if you're running on empty. You can't lead people from a place of exhaustion, resentment, or fear. So they protect their energy like a warrior protects their sword. They feed their mind with power, their body with strength, and their soul with belief. And leaders know this: you can't demand from others what you don't demand from yourself. If you want loyalty, give loyalty. If you want excellence, embody excellence. If you want people to trust you, be trustworthy, especially when no one's watching. Leadership is not about managing people, it's about lifting people. It's about igniting something in others that makes them see more, believe more, and become more. Real leaders light a fire in others by staying lit themselves. And maybe the most important truth of all, leaders know they'll be misunderstood, they'll be judged, criticized, doubted, but they keep moving anyway. Because they're not chasing approval, they're chasing impact. They understand that legacy is built by those who dared to stand alone before anyone else believed. So if you want to lead, start leading. Don't wait for a title, a team, or applause. Lead yourself, lead your emotions, lead your actions. Because when you take charge of your state, your story, and your standards, that's when everything changes. Leaders know this. It's not about being in control of everything. It's about being in control of yourself. And when you master that, you can move mountains. Momentum is the invisible force that separates those who achieve extraordinary results from those who drift through life hoping things will magically work out. The truth is, momentum doesn't wait for anyone. It doesn't knock politely on your door and ask, are you ready? It doesn't pause until you feel confident or until conditions are perfect. Momentum is created, and it is created by action. Leaders understand this better than anyone because they know that waiting is the enemy of progress. They know that life rewards motion, and it punishes hesitation. Every moment you sit idle, every second you spend overthinking or doubting yourself, you are giving power to stagnation. Leaders refuse to let that happen. They take action even when the path is unclear, even when they don't have all the answers, because they understand that movement produces clarity. When you are moving forward, even imperfectly, the universe begins to align, opportunities appear, doors open, and solutions emerge that were invisible to those standing still. Leaders don't wait for permission from the world. They grant themselves permission to act. They don't wait for inspiration to strike. They generate it through action. The act of moving forward produces energy, excitement, and a sense of purpose that fuels further motion. Momentum starts small, almost imperceptibly, but leaders know that even the tiniest step, taken consistently, compounds into enormous results. They don't underestimate the power of small wins. Every decision, every action, every choice to move in the right direction is like dropping a stone into a pond. The ripples spread, affecting other areas of life, creating possibilities that were previously unimaginable. Leaders recognize the snowball effect of momentum. They know that action begets more action, that energy attracts opportunity, and that results feed belief. When you take a step, no matter how small, you begin to feel empowered. Your mind shifts from doubt to possibility. Your body shifts from resistance to energy. Your emotions shift from fear to confidence. This shift alone is enough to launch you into your next action and the next and the next. Momentum is a cycle, a feedback loop of energy, belief, and action, and leaders know how to feed it relentlessly. Waiting for the perfect moment is a trap. Leaders see it clearly because they've witnessed it firsthand. Those who wait often get left behind. Life is not a rehearsal. It doesn't wait for you to feel ready, and it certainly doesn't pause for anyone's comfort zone. Leaders take control of their circumstances by starting now. They understand that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. The longer you wait, The heavier fear becomes, the louder doubt speaks, and the harder it is to take that first step. Momentum is born in action, not intention. Leaders don't just plan, they execute. They don't just dream, they do. They take what they know, what they have, and who they are, and they move forward with relentless persistence. Every action generates energy, and energy generates results. The beauty of momentum is that it grows exponentially. One step leads to another, one action produces another, and soon you are operating at a level far beyond where you started. Leaders know that the key is to start. They don't wait to have the perfect plan, the perfect team, or the perfect conditions. They know that movement itself creates insight. When you are moving, you begin to see the next steps that were invisible while standing still. The act of moving forward illuminates opportunities, possibilities, and solutions that waiting never will. Leaders also understand that momentum is contagious. When they move, people notice. When they act decisively, others are inspired to act. When they show courage, others find courage. Leaders create momentum not only for themselves, but for everyone around them. Their energy, decisiveness, and drive become a force multiplier. Leaders also understand the importance of consistency in creating momentum. One action alone is not enough. Momentum requires repeated, focused, intentional action over time. It's not about occasional bursts of effort. It's about creating a rhythm of motion that cannot be stopped. It's about setting a pace that aligns your mind, body, and emotions and sustaining it until results manifest. The difference between those who succeed and those who stagnate is rarely talent or luck. It is the ability to generate momentum and maintain it. Leaders cultivate habits, routines, and disciplines that ensure they are always moving forward. They wake up each day with a sense of urgency, a commitment to take action, and a refusal to be paralyzed by fear, doubt, or uncertainty. Another aspect of momentum that leaders grasp is the need to overcome resistance. Resistance is everywhere, in your mind, in your circumstances, in other people's opinions. Resistance is the natural force that tries to keep you in your comfort zone, where it feels safe but unproductive. Leaders face resistance head on. They move through it, not around it. They know that the moment you feel resistance is often the exact moment where opportunity lies. Momentum is forged in the fires of challenge. The more obstacles you push through, the stronger your momentum becomes. The more you act despite fear, the more unstoppable you feel. Leaders do not allow obstacles to stop them. They use them to fuel motion. They understand that growth, progress, and achievement live on the other side of resistance. Leaders also recognize the psychological power of momentum. When you are in motion, your confidence grows. Your belief in your abilities expands. Your mindset shifts from scarcity to possibility, from doubt to certainty. Momentum creates a sense of inevitability, a feeling that you are unstoppable, that the results you seek are not just possible, they are inevitable. This mindset becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Leaders know that their emotional state determines the quality of their decisions, the effectiveness of their actions, and the outcomes they achieve. Momentum fuels that state, creating a virtuous cycle of confidence, action, and results. Finally, leaders understand that momentum is not just about speed, it is about direction. Moving fast without clarity can lead to wasted energy, frustration, and burnout. But moving with purpose, with intention, with focus is unstoppable. Leaders align their actions with their vision, values, and goals. They take decisive steps toward what truly matters, and they refuse to be distracted by noise, doubt, or negativity. Every action, every choice, every moment of focus adds to the forward motion that compounds into massive results over time. They know that small, consistent steps in the right direction are far more powerful than giant leaps taken sporadically in the wrong direction. Momentum, then, is the ultimate competitive advantage. It cannot be bought. It cannot be inherited. It cannot be borrowed. It is earned through consistent, committed action. Leaders create it, protect it, and harness it. They understand that in the game of life, success is reserved for those who move, for those who act, for those who refuse to wait, for those who know that every second counts, and that waiting is the thief of opportunity. They know that movement is the key to clarity, growth, influence, and achievement, and they act accordingly every single day. True leadership has never been about titles, status, or hierarchy. It's not about the corner office, the business card, or the number of followers you have. It's about certainty, an inner knowing, a conviction so strong that it moves people without words. Leaders know that titles may open doors, but certainty opens hearts. Certainty inspires trust, ignites passion, and creates movement where none existed before. You can hand someone a title, but you can't hand them belief. Real leaders carry an energy, a presence that comes from an unshakable sense of who they are and what they stand for. That certainty cannot be faked, borrowed, or imitated. It is earned through experience, forged through adversity, and built through the constant choice to act with conviction even when fear is present. Leaders understand that people follow strength, not rank. You can't manage your way into influence. You lead your way into it. When you walk into a room with certainty, people feel it. They may not know why, but they sense it immediately. It's in your posture, your tone, your energy. Certainty communicates louder than words ever could. It says, I know where we're going, and I'm willing to lead the way. That kind of confidence creates safety for others. It gives people permission to believe in something bigger than their doubts. That's the secret of true leadership. It transfers belief. When you are certain, your energy becomes contagious. Others borrow your strength until they find their own. Titles can make people compliant, but certainty makes people committed. A title might get someone to follow your orders, but certainty makes them follow your vision. A title demands respect, but certainty earns it. People can sense authenticity. They can feel when a leader truly believes in their mission and when they're simply going through the motions. Leaders don't need to convince others. They embody what they preach. Their conviction radiates. It's not about pretending to be confident when you're unsure. It's about cultivating a deep inner alignment with your purpose so that confidence becomes your natural state. Certainty doesn't mean arrogance. It doesn't mean thinking you know everything or refusing to listen. True certainty is humble. It's built on growth, learning, and a willingness to adapt. It's the knowing that no matter what challenges come, you will find a way. It's the belief that resourcefulness matters more than resources. Leaders don't always have the answers, but they have the confidence to find them. They trust in their ability to figure things out. That self-trust becomes their foundation, and from that foundation, they can lead others with clarity and strength. Leadership without certainty is chaos. It's like a ship without a compass. When uncertainty strikes, and it always does, people look to the leader. They look for stability. They look for someone whose energy says, we will get through this. And leaders know that the first person they must lead through uncertainty is themselves. They manage their emotions before they manage others. They don't let fear dictate their actions or let doubt cloud their vision. Their calm in chaos becomes a lighthouse for others. When everyone else is panicking, the leader's certainty becomes the anchor that keeps the team steady. Certainty is not about never feeling fear. It's about not letting fear stop you. Leaders feel the same doubts, the same insecurities, but they make a different decision. They choose faith over fear, action over hesitation, focus over distraction. That choice, repeated over time, creates the energy of certainty. The more you act in alignment with your purpose, the more certain you become. Certainty is built through evidence. Each time you overcome a challenge, each time you keep your word, each time you push through discomfort, you build the muscle of belief. Leaders have trained that muscle. They've earned their certainty through relentless action and consistency. Titles can be given overnight, but certainty takes time. It's the product of failure, resilience, and repetition. Leaders have fallen, stumbled, and doubted themselves, but they kept moving. They learned to trust the process, to trust themselves. That trust becomes unshakable. When you have certainty, people feel safe around you because they know you won't crumble under pressure. They know your decisions come from conviction, not convenience. They know that even if things go wrong, you'll stand by your principles. That consistency creates loyalty. Leaders know that certainty attracts opportunity. When you speak with conviction, people listen. When you act with confidence, doors open. The universe rewards clarity. Uncertainty repels progress, but certainty pulls it in. It's like a magnetic force. When your energy says, I know what I want and I'm going after it, life begins to align in your favor. The people, the resources, the timing, they all begin to move toward you. Leaders understand this power. They don't wait for things to happen. They expect them to happen. Their certainty creates momentum before results even appear. Certainty also builds influence because it inspires trust. People follow those who believe in something greater than themselves. Leaders with certainty don't need to shout their message. They embody it quietly but powerfully. Their actions do the talking. They hold themselves to high standards. They follow through on their promises, and they show up consistently even when no one is watching. Over time, that consistency becomes credibility. When people know they can count on you, they'll move mountains with you. That's what leadership really is. Not control, but influence built on trust and conviction. Leaders also understand that certainty is an energy that must be protected. Doubt is contagious, but so is belief. You cannot afford to surround yourself with people who drain your conviction. You must guard your mind, your environment, and your focus. Feed your certainty daily with growth, gratitude, and movement. Leaders invest in their mental and emotional fitness as much as their skills or strategies. They know that the external world will always be uncertain, but the internal world is within their control. Certainty is cultivated in the mind long before it shows up in the results. Leadership without certainty is like a car without fuel. It might look powerful, but it won't go anywhere. You can have strategy, plans, and resources, but if you lack inner conviction, everything stalls. Leaders drive progress not because they always have the perfect plan, but because they move with purpose. They understand that clarity comes from doing, not waiting. They trust that the path will reveal itself to those bold enough to step forward. That's what makes people follow them. They act when others hesitate, they decide when others debate, and they commit when others doubt. True certainty doesn't just move people, it transforms them. It gives them belief in their own potential. When you lead with certainty, you're not just guiding others, you're awakening something inside them. You're reminding them of their own strength, their own courage, their own capability. Leaders know that the most powerful gift they can give is belief. The belief that we can, the belief that we will, the belief that no challenge is too great when certainty leads the way. Purpose is the fuel that drives every great leader forward. It's the force that keeps you moving when everything in you wants to stop. Fear is powerful, but purpose is stronger. Purpose gives fear no room to live. Leaders understand that fear will always show up. It's part of being human, but they refuse to let it be the driver. They know fear can sit in the car, but it doesn't get to touch the wheel. Purpose is what turns fear into fuel, pain into focus, and uncertainty into motion. Without purpose, fear takes control. With purpose, fear becomes powerless. Every leader faces moments where the odds are stacked against them, where the voices of doubt grow louder than the voice of belief. But leaders know that when your why is strong enough, your out always appears. Purpose gives meaning to struggle. It transforms obstacles into opportunities for growth. Fear whispers, what if you fail? But purpose answers, what if this changes everything? That single shift in focus changes your physiology, your energy, and your destiny. Leaders don't eliminate fear. They outgrow it by anchoring themselves to something bigger than the emotion of the moment. When you live and lead with purpose, your energy changes. You stop chasing validation, approval, or applause. You move from survival to creation. You stop asking, what will people think? And start asking, what impact will this make? Purpose elevates your focus from self to service. Fear is self-centered. It's always about your pain, your embarrassment, your comfort. Purpose is selfless. It's about contribution, impact, and meaning. The moment you connect to something greater than yourself, fear loses its grip because you realize this isn't about you anymore. It's about the lives you can touch, the difference you can make, the legacy you can leave behind. Leaders know that purpose gives direction when logic fails. There are times when strategy doesn't make sense, when the plan falls apart, when the path is unclear. But purpose shines a light in the dark. It reminds you why you started. It gives you the emotional stamina to keep pushing forward when everything else says stop. Fear thrives in uncertainty, but purpose thrives in chaos. The stronger your purpose, the more uncertainty you can handle. Leaders anchor themselves to that inner mission so deeply that even when everything external shifts, their internal compass stays steady. Fear feeds on hesitation. It grows when you stand still. Purpose destroys hesitation because it demands movement. When you're connected to a mission, you act. You don't need permission. You don't need certainty. You need alignment. Purpose pulls you forward even when you're tired, even when you're uncertain, even when it hurts. It gives you the strength to take one more step, one more shot, one more breath. Fear freezes, purpose fuels. That's the difference between those who dream and those who deliver. Leaders also understand that purpose must be chosen every single day. It's not a one-time decision. It's a daily commitment. Fear is patient. It waits for you to forget why you started. That's why leaders constantly reconnect with their vision, their mission, their reason. They revisit it, refine it, and reinforce it until it becomes part of their identity. When purpose becomes who you are, fear becomes irrelevant. It might knock, but it can't come in. Leaders operate from a deep sense of certainty that what they're doing matters, and that sense of meaning transforms everything. Purpose also brings power in moments of pain. Every leader experiences loss, failure, rejection, and setbacks. But when your actions are connected to a higher mission, you don't break, you bend, adapt, and rise stronger. You realize that pain itself can be purposeful. The challenges that used to cripple you now carve you. The wounds become wisdom. Fear says, this is the end. Purpose says, this is the beginning of something greater. That's how leaders turn suffering into strength. They give their pain a purpose. When a leader leads with purpose, people feel it. It's not something you can fake. Purpose has an energy that speaks louder than words. It's the fire in your eyes, the conviction in your tone, the consistency in your actions. People may not remember what you say, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And when you lead with authentic purpose, others feel safe to find theirs. You give them permission to step into their own strength, to face their fears, and to move toward their dreams. Purpose creates leaders out of followers. Leaders know that fear is rooted in uncertainty. What if I'm not enough? What if I fail? What if it doesn't work? But purpose answers all of those questions before they're asked. When your purpose is clear, you no longer need everything else to be. You stop needing guarantees because you've already made a decision. You're all in. And when you're all in, fear can't touch you. Purpose replaces the need for perfection with the need for progress. You stop measuring yourself by results alone and start measuring yourself by your level of alignment, your consistency, and your commitment. Purpose also creates emotional mastery. Fear thrives in reaction, but purpose thrives in intention. Leaders choose their emotional state instead of being ruled by it. They know that emotions are signals, not commands. When fear arises, they don't fight it, they refocus. They ask better questions. What does this fear reveal about my priorities? What am I protecting? What can I learn from it? Then they shift back to purpose, back to action. That's emotional leadership, the ability to feel fear but move forward anyway because something greater is calling you. The reason purpose is stronger than fear is simple. Fear is temporary, but purpose is eternal. Fear comes and goes with circumstances, but purpose transcends them. It doesn't matter if the market crashes. If people doubt you or if the plan falls apart, your purpose remains. It's your anchor, your foundation, your true north. Leaders don't allow temporary emotions to dictate permanent decisions. They let purpose guide their actions, not fear. That's why they make bold moves when others hesitate. That's why they see possibilities where others see problems. Their decisions are rooted in mission, not mood. Purpose also gives leaders resilience. Fear breaks the weak because it isolates them. Purpose unites. When you're connected to something larger than yourself, you realize you're not alone. You're part of something bigger, a vision, a cause, a movement. That connection gives you strength that fear can't penetrate. Leaders use that energy to push forward, to inspire, to create change, even in the face of adversity. Their belief becomes so strong that others borrow it until they build their own. At its core, leadership is about service, not status. It's about moving people from fear to faith, from confusion to clarity, from hesitation to action. And you can't do that unless you've done it within yourself first. Leaders have faced fear, but they've chosen purpose. They've chosen to believe that what they're building, what they're creating, and who they're becoming matters more than any moment of doubt. That choice, the decision to live by purpose rather than fear, is what separates those who change the world from those who wait for the world to change them. Energy is the foundation of influence, and every great leader understands that the energy you bring to any situation determines the outcome before a single word is spoken. People don't follow words, they follow energy. They follow the vibration of certainty, the presence of confidence, the pulse of passion that radiates from someone who is fully alive. Leadership is not about having control over others. It's about mastering the energy within yourself first. When your energy is strong, focused, and intentional, you naturally lift everyone around you. When it's low, scattered, or drained, you pull others down without realizing it. Leaders know that their energy sets the emotional climate of every room they enter. If they show up tired, fearful, or indecisive, that energy infects their team. But when they show up with enthusiasm, certainty, and clarity, that becomes contagious. Leaders understand that energy is not something you find, it's something you generate. It's a state you create through choice, through focus, through movement. They don't wait to feel energized before taking action. They take action to create energy. The body and mind are deeply connected, and leaders use that to their advantage. They stand tall, breathe deeply, move powerfully, and speak with conviction because they know that physiology shapes psychology. When you move your body, you change your state. When you change your state, you change your energy. And when you change your energy, you change your results. Energy is not random, it's intentional. Most people underestimate the power of state. They think success comes from strategy alone, but strategy without energy is dead. A plan means nothing if you don't have the vitality to execute it. Leaders know that their energy determines their effectiveness, their creativity, and their resilience. When your energy is high, problems look smaller. When your energy is low, everything feels impossible. That's why leaders treat their energy like a sacred resource. They know it's their number one tool of influence. You can't inspire others from a place of exhaustion. You can't lead people into possibility when you're running on fumes. That's why great leaders protect their energy with discipline. They feed their body with movement, their mind with growth, and their soul with gratitude. Energy is also emotional. Leaders know that emotion is energy in motion. When you shift your emotions, you shift your impact. You can't motivate someone if you're disconnected. You can't demand excellence from others if your own energy communicates frustration or apathy. Leaders learn to regulate their emotions because they understand that energy transfers faster than information. You can tell people what to do, but they'll do what you feel. They'll match your intensity, your belief, your presence. That's why leaders live in alignment with high emotional energy, passion, love, confidence, certainty, joy. They cultivate those states daily because they know the world reflects back the energy they project. Leaders also understand that energy is a responsibility. The moment you choose to lead, you take ownership of the energy you bring. You no longer have the luxury of showing up however you feel. You have to be intentional. You have to create energy even when you don't feel like it, because leadership means serving something greater than your mood. It means mastering your state so you can elevate others. Leaders don't allow external circumstances to dictate their internal energy. They lead from the inside out. Whether the world is calm or chaotic, they remain grounded, vibrant, and focused. Their consistency creates trust. People know what to expect from them. They know that no matter what happens, the leader's energy will hold steady. That emotional stability is one of the greatest forms of strength a leader can give. There are two kinds of energy, reactive and creative. Reactive energy is what most people live in. They respond to life, letting external events dictate how they feel. Traffic makes them angry, failure makes them hopeless, criticism makes them defensive. But leaders operate from creative energy. They choose how they want to feel before the world gives them a reason. They decide, I will bring passion today. I will bring focus. I will bring power. That decision transforms everything. The leader's energy doesn't depend on what happens. It depends on who they decide to be. That's why leaders appear unshakable. They're not reacting to life. They're creating it. Energy also determines influence because people are emotional beings first and logical beings second. You can give someone all the facts, all the reasons, all the logic. But if your energy doesn't move them, they won't follow. Influence happens through energy. When someone speaks with certainty, when they exude conviction, when they radiate belief, others feel it in their nervous system. That's why leaders focus on energy before strategy, state before speech, emotion before execution. They understand that leadership is an energetic exchange, not a transaction of words or instructions. Leaders know that energy attracts energy. You can't attract passionate, driven, high-performing people if you show up drained and uninspired. The energy you carry determines the people you draw in, the opportunities you magnetize, and the results you achieve. When your energy is low, you attract problems, drama, and stagnation. When your energy is high, you attract growth, progress, and abundance. Leaders are deliberate about who and what they allow into their energetic space. They know that negativity is contagious, so they limit exposure to people, habits, and environments that drain them. They surround themselves with energy multipliers, people who elevate their vibration, challenge them to grow, and fuel their fire. Sustaining energy also requires recovery. Leaders know that rest is not weakness. It's strategy. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't inspire others when you're depleted. Energy management is not just about intensity, it's about renewal. Leaders create rhythms of expansion and restoration. They know when to push and when to pause. They understand that balance doesn't mean doing less. It means doing what matters most with full presence. When they rest deeply. When they work, they give everything. That balance keeps their energy sustainable and their influence long-lasting. Leaders also understand that energy is tied to meaning. When you feel drained, it's not just because you're tired, it's often because you've lost connection to your purpose. Energy flows where meaning grows. When your work aligns with your values, your energy multiplies. When it doesn't, even small tasks feel heavy. Leaders keep their purpose front and center because it fuels them emotionally, physically, and spiritually. That's why great leaders can outwork, outlast, and outperform others. It's not just stamina, it's meaning-driven energy. Energy is communication. Every tone, gesture, and expression you make sends a message. People may not remember what you said, but they will always remember how your energy made them feel. Leaders consciously choose the energy they communicate. They use it to uplift, to challenge, to empower. They use it to shift rooms, transform meetings, and inspire action. They walk in with such clarity and intention that others rise simply by being near them. That's the invisible advantage of great leadership, energetic leadership. The truth is, leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about being the energy that can find them. It's about being the person who, when others are falling apart, brings calm, focus, and belief. Energy is the foundation of influence because it's the one thing you always control. You may not control the economy, the market, or the opinions of others, but you can always control the energy you bring into the world. And when that energy is alive, aligned, and purposeful, it becomes impossible not to influence everything and everyone around you. Leadership begins with example. Every great leader understands that you cannot demand from others what you do not demand from yourself. The mirror comes before the message. People do not follow instructions, they follow standards. They follow what they see consistently lived out, not what they hear occasionally spoken. You can tell others to work hard, to be disciplined, to stay positive, but if your actions don't reflect that same commitment, your words carry no power. Influence without integrity collapses because leadership is energy transferred through alignment, not authority. When your behavior aligns with your expectations, you build trust, and trust is the currency of true leadership. Leaders know that their example sets the tone long before any speech, meeting, or directive ever does. Your presence communicates more than your words ever can. The way you carry yourself, the energy you bring, the way you respond under pressure, these moments define your credibility. People are always watching, always learning from how you handle success, how you handle failure, how you treat others when nobody's around. Consistency builds confidence. When people see you walking your talk every single day, they start to believe in your message because they see it alive in you. Leadership by example is not about perfection. It's about congruence. It's about showing up with authenticity, owning your mistakes, growing publicly, and staying true to your principles even when it's inconvenient. The real test of leadership happens in silence, in the small unseen decisions that nobody notices at first. Do you follow through on promises? Do you do what's right when it's hard? Do you show up when it would be easier to step back? Those private choices build public credibility. You can't inspire others with a message you haven't lived. Leaders earn influence not through speeches, but through example, through being the kind of person others aspire to become. It's not about commanding respect. It's about embodying it so deeply that respect happens naturally. When you lead by example, you shift the energy of an entire culture. People rise to the level of the standard you live, not the one you announce. If you show up with passion, others will mirror it. If you operate with excellence, others will adopt it. If you approach challenges with calm focus instead of panic, your team will reflect that energy. Leadership is not just top down, it's inside out. You are the thermostat, not the thermometer. You don't react to the environment, you create it. Every time you lead by example, you set an emotional temperature that others adjust to. Leaders also understand that the higher you rise, the less you can afford to separate words from action. People may forgive mistakes, but they don't forgive hypocrisy. When your words say one thing, but your behavior shows another, trust disintegrates. Without trust, influence dies. That's why true leaders hold themselves to standards higher than anyone else does. They don't wait for accountability. They create it. They measure themselves not against others, but against their own values. They understand that credibility is not built in moments of comfort. It's built in moments of challenge when you do the right thing even when it costs you something. Leadership by example requires emotional discipline. You cannot let your moods dictate your actions. The people around you feed off your emotional energy. If you show frustration, they feel it. If you show fear, they absorb it. Leaders learn to master their state because their example teaches others how to respond. When things go wrong, do you blame or do you take responsibility? When pressure builds, do you shrink or do you rise? Every reaction is a lesson for someone watching you. Your composure becomes their permission to stay calm. Your courage becomes their permission to act. Your resilience becomes their permission to keep going. Leaders know that example is the ultimate form of communication because it transcends words. Words inspire temporarily, but example imprints permanently. It's not what people hear once that changes them. It's what they witness consistently. Every day you're teaching without realizing it. The way you start your morning, the way you greet others, the way you handle stress, all of it becomes instruction. You are always sending a message about what is acceptable, what is possible, and what matters. Leaders use that awareness intentionally. They ask themselves, what am I teaching right now through my behavior? They know that every moment of action is a moment of influence. Leading by example also requires humility. Leaders understand they're not above the people they lead, they're among them. They don't lead from the top, they lead from the front. They roll up their sleeves, they participate, they listen. Their authority comes not from distance, but from connection. People follow leaders who are relatable, not unreachable. When others see you willing to do the work, to admit mistakes, to grow publicly, it builds trust faster than any title ever could. That humility gives your leadership depth and makes your influence real. Leaders also understand that example isn't about being flawless. It's about being faithful. It's not about pretending to have everything figured out. It's about showing up with integrity even when you're uncertain. People don't expect perfection. They expect authenticity. They want to see your humanity, your effort, your consistency. They want to know that your values aren't just words you preach when it's easy, but principles you live when it's hard. When you fail, own it. When you succeed, share the credit. When you're wrong, admit it quickly. These behaviors build an environment of respect and psychological safety where others feel free to grow. Consistency is the heartbeat of leadership by example. Anyone can be motivated for a day. Leaders stay consistent for years. Consistency builds predictability, and predictability builds trust. When people know what to expect from you, they feel secure following you. They know you won't change with the wind. They know you won't compromise your integrity under pressure. They know you'll hold the same standard for yourself that you expect from them. That reliability is what turns leadership into legacy. Leaders understand that their example multiplies. When one person raises their standard, it raises the collective. One act of integrity, one moment of courage, one decision to do the right thing can inspire others to do the same. Before long, an entire culture shifts because one person decided to embody what others only talked about. That's the quiet power of leadership. It's exponential. It spreads without force because authenticity has gravity. Leading by example also means being disciplined with your focus. You can't expect others to be clear if you're distracted. You can't expect excellence from others if you tolerate mediocrity in yourself. You can't expect commitment if you're inconsistent. Leaders live by the principle that their behavior creates permission. Whatever you do, you give others permission to do the same. When you take shortcuts, you teach others that shortcuts are acceptable. When you go the extra mile, you teach others that excellence is the standard. Every action either raises or lowers the collective expectation. At the core, leaders know that influence begins within. You can't lead others until you lead yourself. You can't expect respect until you respect your own standards. You can't create accountability until you live it. Leadership is never about telling people who to be. It's about becoming someone worth following. The example you set is your real legacy. It outlasts your words, your projects, and even your position. It becomes the invisible force that shapes behavior long after you've left the room. That's why true leaders focus not just on what they do, but on who they are every moment of every day. They know their example speaks louder than any command, and that living their message is the most powerful form of leadership there is. Leaders know that legacy is built by action, not intention. Every decision you make, every habit you cultivate, every word you speak sends ripples into the world, shaping the future, whether you realize it or not. Leadership is not about short-term gain or temporary recognition. It's about creating a life and an influence that outlasts your presence. Leaders understand that influence is measured in impact, not applause. They know that what they do consistently day after day creates patterns that others follow, systems that others inherit, and inspiration that others carry forward. The true measure of leadership is not how many people agree with you today, but how many people are empowered by your example tomorrow. Leaders know that your personal standards dictate the quality of your life and the depth of your impact. If you tolerate mediocrity in your own habits, decisions, or mindset, you signal to the world that mediocrity is acceptable. If you elevate your standards, push beyond comfort, and consistently show up with excellence, you set a benchmark that others will emulate. Influence begins with self-mastery. You cannot inspire commitment from others if you are inconsistent. You cannot demand integrity from your team if you compromise your own principles. Leadership is a reflection of your personal alignment between your values and your actions. Every time you live in congruence, you multiply your credibility, your power, and your ability to leave a lasting mark. Leaders also understand that influence grows exponentially when it is authentic. People can sense when someone is pretending, performing, or speaking from ego. Authenticity is magnetic because it resonates with the deepest parts of human connection. Leaders cultivate self-awareness and honesty, allowing themselves to be vulnerable, admitting mistakes, and showing their human side while maintaining strength and clarity. Authenticity builds trust, the trust that allows others to follow, to commit, and to believe in something bigger than themselves. Leaders do not need to manufacture influence. They earn it through genuine engagement, consistent behavior, and unwavering alignment with their purpose. The energy leaders bring into a room determines the energy of the room itself. Leaders know that they set the emotional temperature for their teams, families, and communities. If a leader is reactive, anxious, or scattered, everyone around them absorbs that energy and mirrors it. If a leader is confident, passionate, and intentional, that energy multiplies, lifting everyone around them. Leadership is not about controlling people. It's about influencing the emotional environment so that others can operate at their highest potential. Leaders understand that energy is contagious and they guard it carefully, fueling it through mindset, physiology, and intentional focus. Momentum is the engine of leadership. Leaders don't wait for perfect conditions, full clarity, or complete certainty. They act decisively, generating motion that propels themselves and others forward. Action produces clarity, builds confidence, and creates momentum that compounds over time. Leaders understand that momentum is created, not discovered. They take consistent steps, even small ones, toward their vision, knowing that every step forward multiplies influence and opportunity. Momentum turns vision into reality, and leaders leverage it strategically, refusing to allow hesitation or doubt to slow their progress. Fear is an inevitable companion of leadership, but purpose neutralizes it. Leaders feel fear, doubt, and uncertainty, but they act despite it. They anchor themselves in something greater than the moment, a vision, mission, or principle that drives them beyond personal discomfort. Leaders understand that fear signals growth, challenge, and opportunity. When they face it head on, they transform fear into fuel. Purpose gives them clarity, confidence, and resilience. It is the internal compass that ensures every decision and action is aligned with something meaningful, creating influence that is powerful, consistent, and enduring. Leaders recognize the power of example. Influence is less about what you say and more about what you do. People follow who you are, not what you say. Every action you take teaches someone else a lesson. Intentionally or unintentionally, leaders embody the qualities they want others to adopt: discipline, courage, focus, integrity, resilience, and passion. They understand that leadership is not about perfection. It's about consistency and striving for excellence. By living their values and modeling their principles, leaders create environments where others are inspired to rise to the same standard. Leadership by example multiplies impact because it is visible, tangible, and replicable. Leaders also know the value of emotional mastery. They understand that emotions are energy in motion and that their emotional state directly affects their decisions, relationships, and results. Leaders train themselves to remain calm under pressure, to respond rather than react, and to project confidence even in uncertainty. They know that fear and panic spread faster than any strategic plan, while calm focus and empowered energy lift collective performance. Emotional mastery allows leaders to navigate complexity, make clear decisions, and sustain influence even in turbulent conditions. Connection is another cornerstone of leadership. Influence is not coercion, it is attraction. People follow leaders they feel aligned with, understood by, and supported by. Leaders invest in relationships, listening actively, valuing contributions, and understanding the needs and desires of those they lead. They know that influence is strongest when it is relational. People commit to leaders who care, who understand, and who act with intention to create mutual growth. Leaders create environments of psychological safety where people can thrive, experiment, and innovate without fear of judgment, knowing that their growth is supported by consistent, authentic leadership. Leaders know that education and growth are continuous. They never stop learning because influence depends on adaptability, knowledge, and perspective. Leaders surround themselves with mentors, peers, and resources that challenge them, expand their vision, and enhance their skills. They seek feedback, embrace failure as a teacher, and model a growth mindset for others. Influence grows when leaders demonstrate that improvement is lifelong, that mastery is a journey, and that potential is limitless when pursued with intentionality and discipline. Leaders understand the power of clarity. Influence diminishes when people are confused or uncertain about direction. Leaders communicate clearly, articulating vision, expectations, and principles in a way that removes ambiguity. They simplify complexity and provide a roadmap that others can follow. Clarity builds confidence, reduces friction, and accelerates action. When people know what is expected and see the path forward, they step into their roles with purpose and energy. Leadership is not about being enigmatic or mysterious. It's about removing barriers to action and making the vision tangible, achievable, and inspiring. Leaders are also disciplined with their attention. They know that distraction dilutes influence and that focus multiplies impact. Leaders prioritize high-leverage activities that align with their purpose, ignoring trivialities that consume energy without creating results. They model prioritization and intentionality, showing others how to focus on what truly matters. Energy spent on the right actions is amplified by influence because it demonstrates clarity of purpose, commitment, and alignment with meaningful outcomes. Leaders create a culture where focus is respected, effort is aligned with vision, and results follow naturally from disciplined execution. Finally, leaders understand that influence is cumulative. Every action, every word, every decision, every habit builds or diminishes influence over time. There are no shortcuts to leadership. It is earned day by day, choice by choice. Leaders know that their legacy is the sum of their consistency, alignment, and impact. Influence is not a momentary spike. It is sustained, built through trust, integrity, and relentless commitment to purpose. Leaders measure success not by immediate recognition, but by the depth of change they create in people's lives, in organizations, and in communities. Their energy, example, clarity, and discipline compound over time to create a force that transforms everything it touches.